Cody, welcome back to my channel. So after about a year of being in lockdown, conventions are slowly but surely opening back up in certain parts of the United States, and with that comes one of my favorite aspects of the convention circuit, which is masquerades. Masquerade, for those of you who don't know, is the general term that is given to cosplay contests. Sometimes they could be just a walk-on entry where you just present your costume and do some poses on stage. Others can do full-blown skits. But whether it's a walk-on or a skit, they're usually all categorized under the term masquerade. While some conventions as well as independent organizations did hold online masquerades during quarantine, nothing beats doing a live masquerade. So whether you're a beginner or a veteran, you want to do a masquerade. But of course, before you can enter a masquerade, you have to answer the age-old question that every cosplayer has to dread. What should I wear? This is the question that plagues every cosplayer for cons in general, but even more so for masquerade, because not only are you going to have to wear this costume, you're going to have to do it in front of a big audience, and you have to do it in front of judges who are going to be looking at your costume and every little detail that comes with it. This can be quite a daunting task for one costume to live up to, but I am here to help you narrow down your choice into picking the perfect cosplay. Here are my top 5 tips on how to pick a cosplay for masquerade. So my first tip is to look at the Masquerade Rules. Most masquerades will have very overlapping rules, mainly that you have to follow the convention dress code as well as the convention weapons policy. Those usually are pretty much the same throughout any convention that you go to. However, there are 2 sections of the rules that may vary depending on the convention. And that is, number 1, what source materials you're allowed to use, and 2, what is their policy on sandbagging. So the first one is the source material. Some conventions are completely open to any source material whatsoever, including OCs. Others will only allow you to do costumes from certain genres or even certain series. Some are kind of obvious, like if you're going to a convention that's geared towards a specific series, probably unlikely that you're going to be able to enter their contest with a costume from another series. So the next one, of course, is sandbagging. Now, for those of you who don't know what sandbagging is the term used for entering one cosplay in multiple masquerades and just racking up awards with that same costume. Every masquerade has a different policy on sandbagging, but the general rule of thumb is this. If you've entered it before but has never won anything, you are free to enter it with no problems. If the costume won a minor award like a Judge's Choice Award, you might be able to get away with re-entering it, but check with the organizers just in case. And if your costume has won a major award like Best in Category or Best in Show, then you'll be facing even more restrictions. Some of the restrictions you may encounter could be, you have to make significant edits to the original costume in order to re-enter it. You may have to enter it in a higher category than you originally entered it, or you may just not be able to enter it at all. So do check the rules before you submit a costume that you've already won something in. People have been disqualified for that stuff before. If you're just doing a walk-on, just make sure that your costume, can withstand walking across the stage, maybe doing some poses, just the basic stuff that it doesn't fall apart from just walking. However, if you're going to be doing a skit, especially if you're doing a skit that involves things like tumbling or choreography, you really got to make sure that your costume is going to hold together with whatever you're doing. You may have these grand plans to have this amazing mecha battle on stage, but if you can't even move in your costume, then what's the point? So keep that in mind when figuring out what costumes you want to do. And also start thinking about how you're going to make it so that your costume will fulfill whatever you want to do on stage. So my third tip is to strike that fine line between challenging yourself to do something even grander than what you're used to, as well as stick to what you know. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for trying out new techniques. I love learning new stuff. But when it comes to masquerades, there's this added pressure of being judged for craftsmanship. And I've noticed that whenever I try to make a costume where I'm trying out a bunch of new techniques that I've never done before, the results usually end up not as good as I would have liked it to be. There's absolutely nothing wrong with shooting high and shooting for something grand, but you also have to be realistic about what you're able to handle, especially what you're able to handle with the skill set you have and the time limit you have. if you're entering a masquerade and it's just, a couple of months or even a couple of weeks away, this might not be a good time to try learning a bunch of new techniques, If you're so used to doing armor, this may not be a good time to suddenly learn how to do Tudor era fashion. So perhaps maybe what you can do is this. Find a costume where the majority of the costume is something that you're capable of doing, and maybe include 3 new techniques where you're learning something brand new. That way you're still pushing yourself, but you're not pushing yourself too far to where it's gonna come out either bad or you're gonna rush to finish it. Okay, so tip number 4 is gonna be specifically for group entries. So if you decide you wanna do it with a bunch of friends, here's some tips on how to make sure your group entries run smoothly. Step number 1, agree on the source material. Crossovers do still happen every now and then, but some conventions don't allow it, so stick to one series. Step number 2, pick the characters that you want. Try to find characters that have a certain dynamic going, are they friends, are they rivals? Try finding dynamics like that to put a cohesive group together. Step number 3, and this is probably the most contentious part, is casting the characters. There are various ways you can go about doing this. Maybe people can call dibs and say, I want to play this character. Maybe you want to go based off of things like their personality or who can pull it off the best. You can go by, hey, this person's kind of more of a seamstress, let's have them do the clothes heavy stuff. This character has more armor, let's give it to the armor person. Just have a conversation with your group, and no matter what, make sure that by the end of your meeting, everyone is happy with what the character they're getting. And tip number 4, you don't have to assign the work based on, you got this character, so you are responsible for making the entire costume by yourself. If you have, people that are specialized in certain things, maybe have them do the specialized thing that they're good at for the entire group. So if you have someone who's really good at painting, have them paint everyone's armor. If you have someone who is good at embroidery, have them embroider everyone's patches. This is especially good if you're cosplaying characters that have a uniform. And my 5th and final tip is to get started early. Masquerade costumes usually take up the most amount of work on any costume that I ever do for conventions. So it is important that you get started early, because the earlier you get started, the more time you have to make your costume as good as you want it to be, correct any mistakes you may have made on a costume, fine-tune it and get it to just be the perfect costume that you want it to be. The same goes if you're doing a skit too. Trust me, you do not want to be in a situation where you're realizing that you made a horrible mistake on picking a character and now you're switching characters super last minute and those never work out. Trust me, I've done it. It never works out. So get started early. You will thank yourself for it. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or you just want to tell me what you're going to be doing for future masquerades, please tell me in the comments below. Please subscribe to this channel if you want to see more cosplay content from me. Or if you want to see me dance, please check out my dance channel. I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, bye-bye!